Hi, my name is Kirsty Sanderson and I'm a supervising practitioner at Compass Go. Some of you might have heard of Compass Go through support that we offer in school. We do individual work and group work for young people who are struggling with mental health and emotional wellbeing difficulties. This is a virtual workshop around automatic negative thoughts. It's come about because of the survey that a lot of you took part in, so thank you for that. The survey highlighted that this was something that a lot of people in school are struggling with. So this video is to offer some skills to help with that. During this workshop, we're going to look at what unhelpful thinking is. We're going to highlight some of the types of unhelpful thoughts that we all have sometimes, and we're going to look at this from a cognitive behaviour therapy point of view. We'll go into more detail about that as we go through the workshop. We're also going to give you some ideas of how to manage unhelpful thoughts, how to help to challenge them, and all of these things that you can practice to help to improve your well-being. We all have hundreds of thousands of thoughts each day. Some of those thoughts can be quite unhelpful or negative in nature. Some of the thoughts will pass through our brain without us even noticing that they're there. But these negative thoughts can sometimes give us an emotional reaction. So if your thoughts are, I'll never be any good at this, your emotional reaction might be quite negative. It can also lead to physical feelings. So if your negative thought is, I'm going to fail that test, that could lead you to have physical sensations of anxiety just from a thought. So if we notice we're having lots of these automatic negative thoughts, and it's having quite an effect on our emotional state, on our physical state, and on our general day-to-day life, then that's where we need to try to do something about it. We start with the idea that thoughts are interpretations of the situation. They are guesses at best, and they aren't always fact. CBT stands for Cognitive Behaviour Therapy. Cognitions are thoughts. Behaviours are what we do, and therapy is talking about that. So CBT looks at the link between how our thoughts affect how we feel and what we do. They look at what we do affects how we think and how we feel, and how we feel affects how we think and what we do. It's all connected. Sometimes we can just notice the emotion because it's the emotion that takes over. We can have that physical reaction that's connected with an emotion as well. It might sort of change what we're doing, and those might be the things that we notice. But looking at things from a CBT perspective really helps us to dig down into what our thoughts are as well, and look at how that's perhaps changed our behavior, changed our emotion, and how that's all linked in. Another aspect of CBT would be to look at what the physical reactions are. So an example being, if I think about going to a new place, so I'm going to a new place next weekend, that's the situation. If my thoughts are, it's going to be awful, it'll be too busy, I won't know anyone, I really don't want to go, this is going to be terrible, I can't cope with this, then we might feel anxious, feel nervous, feel stressed about it. We might try not to go. We might avoid going altogether. But if we have to go, we might sort of hunch up, try not to look at anybody, try not to talk to anybody, be quite quiet, not ourselves. So you can see how those thoughts impact how you feel and what you do. You're going to have a racing heart. You're going to have butterflies in your tummy. You're going to feel tense, uncomfortable, and your whole body feels stressed. Looking at it from a different perspective, if your thoughts are, okay, I don't really know what to expect, but I'm sure it'll be okay, and a couple of my friends are going, and I'm sure it'll be worthwhile of my time, and I'll make the best of it, then you're going to feel a little bit more neutral about it. Of course, it's okay to still feel nervous trying something new, but the point is that those negative thoughts don't spiral to a point where you underestimate your ability to cope with it and overestimate how bad it's going to be. So here are some examples of some common negative thoughts. So this isn't going to be any good. I'll fail like I always do. This always happens to me. What's the point? It's not going to end well. I'm no good at this. I can't do it. I'm rubbish. I've got no friends. No one likes me. I don't belong here. I don't fit in. Those kind of thoughts can spiral and spiral and spiral and grow. And the more attention you give to negative thoughts, the more of a physical reaction you will get from that as well. So your brain will think that it's doing a good job protecting you from threat. Your brain's number one job is to keep you safe. So if these negative thoughts make you feel unsafe, your brain will look further into them and will bring up more of that because it thinks it's doing a great job to keeping you safe, when actually it's those thoughts that are causing the problem. But it's really, really common, and I'm sure that some of you will recognize some of those thoughts. And the good news is that you don't have to believe them. Think about how you talk to yourself. If you wouldn't talk to a friend like that, chances are it's probably not the best way to talk to yourself either. And that's why this workshop is going to help you to perhaps try to spin some of that around. So automatic negative thoughts are that common, they are even categorized into different styles of unhelpful thinking. These are called cognitive distortions. We all have them, and I'm sure as we go through these, you'll start to notice some that are maybe more common to yourself. And if you start to notice what it is that you're doing, then you've got more chance of recognizing that and getting in there and perhaps making changes. Okay, so we're going to start for the top here, the emotional reasoning. So just because you feel a certain way, you assume that it must be true. So if you feel embarrassed, it must be that I've done something embarrassing. Or if I feel anxious, it must be because this isn't going to be good. So, applying your feelings as a fact isn't always a useful exercise. For example, you've all been really, really angry, I'm sure, before, and then afterwards actually reflected and perhaps I overreacted. It wasn't as bad as all that. Our feelings don't always fit the situation, don't always show facts. The next one along is overgeneralizing. So applying a pattern to situations or to life based on a single event or a couple of times. So this always happens to me. I'm never any good at this. This is something that I'm always terrible at. So, applying that pattern and overgeneralizing it to always. The next one along is labeling. So applying negative labels or judgments to yourself, other people, to situations. So I'm rubbish, I'm useless at this, I can't do it, I hate it there, it's horrible, I don't like it. You're applying those negative judgments, perhaps based on limited information. The next one along, jump into conclusions, sometimes called fortune telling or mind reading. So again, looking at other people, what are they staring at? They're looking at me, they're making judgments about me, they're thinking bad things about me, they don't like me. We don't know what other people are thinking. So by guessing and adding on, that's just building up our emotional response to a guess. Same with fortune telling. We predict the future. It will be horrible. I won't like it. It's not going to go well. Ultimately, if you're sort of predicting the future in a negative way, you're only creating an emotional response in the present, which may not even turn out to be factual. The mental filter is sort of ignoring anything that doesn't fit that negative opinion. So, if you got 8 out of 10 right, you'd be looking at the 2 that were wrong because that would fit your prediction that you wouldn't be very good at it. So, I knew I wouldn't do very well. I knew that I would get that wrong. Should and must statements. If something that you are saying about yourself or thinking about yourself or a situation starts with should or must, it may not be helpful. So I should know better. I must be a terrible friend if I did that. They're usually negatively framed. Personalization, blaming yourself or blaming someone else for a situation. Sometimes things just do happen. Sometimes there's random chance. We don't always have to assign blame. All or nothing thinking looks at something as either one way or another, and there's no middle ground. So again, sort of just, really not seeing that spectrum of possibility. Disqualifying the positives is quite similar with that too, in that you only look for the negative and you just chuck away. And, someone pays you a compliment. Oh no, it's only because of that I did really well. So, you disqualify that and you don't account for it. You don't accept it. And the middle one there, the magnification, or sometimes called catastrophizing, that's my favorite because it's something that we're all guilty of at times, is that we will blow something up into a massive deal in our minds. So for instance, if you have a fallout with a friend, well, that's it. We'll never be friends again. And then I'll have no friends and everyone will hate me. And then I'll have to leave school. And when I get to a new school, no one will like me either. And then I'll never get a job because no one will like me there. And it just blows up hugely from something that actually, could I deal with that in the now, rather than focusing on what next, and blowing it all out of proportion. We'll learn some more about these as we go through. I've just picked out a couple of the really common cognitive distortions to just take a closer look at, really. Catastrophizing, or magnification as it's sometimes called, is a really, really common one. So we look at when you always think the worst will happen, or that something really bad will happen. So you might notice the initial thought comes into your mind. So that might be you've sent a message to somebody and they've not replied. So that initial thought is, they've not replied, hope they're okay. But then those other negative thoughts will start to creep in, such as, well, what if they're mad with me? Have I done something? Or what if I said something at school and they didn't say bye when we left? Are they mad with me? Have I done something wrong? Oh gosh, what am I going to do at school tomorrow? They're not going to talk to me. And you see how from that initial thought, the catastrophizing started. And then the more effort that goes into that thought and that imagination and that story is going to make us feel more uncomfortable. It's going to make us feel nervous and anxious about school tomorrow, maybe upset about what's happened with our friendship. And then, maybe tomorrow at school, maybe we don't look at them. Maybe we sort of stay away just in case. We don't want them to, sort of have a go. So, that might change our behavior as well. So having those thoughts can really sort of look at changing your behavior, changing your mood. And what we want to do is, when that first initial thought comes into your mind of, well, what if they're mad with me? Start to think about, and hang on, I'm catastrophizing. I don't know the facts of the situation. I need to just pull back and just wait. By noticing when you're doing it, you've got more chance of stopping it in its tracks. Perfectionist thinking I've brought into the category with disqualifying the positives and the mental filter. So looking at it has to be perfect or it's wrong. So not finding that middle ground. Looking at, that didn't count when the teacher said that I did really well. No, that didn't count. They were just saying that they said it to everybody. I need to do it again and again and again because it's not quite right. And getting yourself whipped up into a stress about that unachievable high standard or that unrealistic expectation for what you want to achieve. Really judging yourself on failures, judging yourself on things that aren't quite perfect in this standard. And sometimes that will be unachievable, and then it will lead to judgments on yourself and will lead to that negative self-talk that's going to be really making you feel criticized and make you feel as though you can't get it right. So we're sort of looking at these kind of thinking styles as well, and I'll give you some ideas of how to turn those around. I also wanted to put a bit of a spotlight on mind reading and predicting the future, that fortune telling distortion. A really, really common one, and it can really impact on your self-esteem. So if you are assuming what other people are thinking about you or assuming what will happen, and that is usually negative things about yourself or about your life, then that is going to really impact your self-esteem. So it's a really important one to focus in on. If you are often making judgments about what other people are thinking about you, and if it is often negative, or you are predicting that something bad will happen because of how people think of you. So for instance, as an example there, mum's going to be so mad with me. You don't know how other people are going to be. You don't know how other people are thinking. Maybe they're just looking at you because you're looking at them. And actually, we don't know what people's judgments are. So if you notice you're doing this a lot and it is impacting on your self-esteem, that's a really good one to sort of get in and try to pause that thinking and just try and reflect on it a little bit more rather than just accepting it as a fact. Once you start to notice those thoughts, you can also start to question them. So here's some examples of some questions you can ask yourself to really dig down and find out if this thought is unhelpful for you. So is this possible or is it certain? So finding out whether it's just a maybe or if it's a definite. Am I overestimating the danger? Am I getting into a bit of a catastrophe here? Is this a fact Or is it more just a guess? What's the worst that could actually happen? And then what would I do if that did happen? Okay, I can do difficult things. You're able to sort of reflect on that a little bit more and sort of look at it in terms of a fact-based situation. Am I 100% sure that that will happen? Has it happened before? What would I tell a friend if they were going through this? What would I tell a friend if they were sort of having these dilemmas? So looking at how you can challenge it. Would I talk to a friend like this? Would I say this in front of somebody else? So looking at how you can challenge that and how you can you don't have to accept it. You can sort of question it a little bit and try and figure out if it fits with how you want to proceed with that thought, or with your day, with that next behavior. And if not, then you can look at what else you could do differently. This is the thought court. So when you notice that you're having an unhelpful thought, you can take it to the thought court. And what I mean by that is really just checking for the facts that say the thought might be true, but also the facts that say the thought might not necessarily be true. So rather than just accepting the thought, you can actually challenge it and look for whether it's opinion or fact-based. So for an example, you wake up in the morning, you're just about to go to school, and your thought is, oh, today's going to be awful. Okay, so that kind of thought is predicting the future. It is labeling, it's making that judgment, it's, catastrophizing even, depending on what you're planning that day is going to be so awful about. So that's going to make you feel quite worried, maybe quite down, maybe you feel, like you don't want to go. And you might believe that thought 8 out of 10, it's going to be a bad day. Okay, so let's look at the facts. So the facts that say that's true, well, yesterday was a bad day. Again, what about it was bad? Let's look at the facts. Well, it rained on the way and I got really wet, so I spent all day a bit wet. Okay, so that's a fact that says that might be true. It's also raining today. Okay, that's also a fact. I am not sure that I've done my homework quite right. I didn't have quite enough time to finish it, and I'm worried what the teacher will say. Okay, worried what the teacher will say is not a fact, so we have to strike that. We can have in there, though, that I'm not quite confident about my homework because I know I didn't get it all finished. Okay, we'll have that in there. I know my friend wasn't at school yesterday. I'm worried in case they're not there today. Is that a fact? There's a fact that they weren't there yesterday. We don't know that they won't be there today. Okay. So we're coming up with some facts that say it might be true. It might be an awful day. There will always be facts that support your unhelpful thought. But there will also always be facts that say it's not necessarily true. Okay, so what facts are there that say it's not necessarily true? Okay, well, Mum said she'll give me a lift today, so I don't have to go in the rain. Okay, so that's a fact. Also, I've got art today. I quite like art, so that will be okay. And I've got at least we're finishing at 3:00, so then after that I'm going out with my mates, so that'll be good. Okay, so it's not going to be a whole bad day. There's other parts of it that are going to be okay. And I know that it's Thursday, so there's it's nearly through the week. So there's lots of facts that also say that it's not necessarily true. So then we're able to take those facts and come up with a verdict, and the verdict is hopefully going to be a little bit more positive, or a little bit more neutral at least. So I'm not asking for the opposite. I'm not asking for you to say it was going to be a great day, because you won't necessarily believe that. But using the facts, you can spin it into something that's a little bit less unhelpful. So the thought, instead of today's going to be a really bad day, it could be, well, it's Thursday today and I've got art, which I'm looking forward to. So you can try to spin it around into something that is more helpful, less damaging to your emotion, less impactful on your behaviors, and something that's perhaps going to make you go into the day with a little bit more confidence and a little bit more of an attitude that's going to be conductive of a good day for you. The more often that you try to do this, instead of accepting the negative thought, trying to challenge it, you are nurturing a growth mindset. Look at the diagram. You can see the fixed mindset of I can't do it, I'm no good, I get everything wrong. The growth mindset looks for opportunities and looks at challenges as exciting and new. So I'm going to try my best. I'm on the right track. Mistakes can help me to learn. So think about your own thoughts and try and reframe them and try and find something that's a little bit more suited to the situation, a little bit more self-supportive. Try and build in some more positive affirmations about yourself and about the situation. So things that you are good at and things that you can do differently to try to get to where you want to be. If we go right back to the start where I mentioned the thousands of thoughts that you have each day, if you think about your thoughts like a library, you don't have to take every single thought out and really read it. You can choose which one you want to pay attention to and which one you leave on the shelf. On this shelf, a really good thought to pay attention to is gratitude. The things that you're grateful for, the things that are positive, the things that you're happy about, even just the little things. Take notice of those and build in more opportunities to do that during your day will improve your mood. As I mentioned before, sometimes our thoughts can be really challenging and make us feel quite distressed. If you notice that you're starting to feel overwhelmed or panicked, a good thing to do first is to just slow your body down. So here are some grounding skills to do that. First off, focus on your breathing. When we're panicked or distressed, our body can go into fight or flight mode. Our breathing quickens, our heart rate quickens, our pulse rate quickens, our temperature goes up, lots of physical changes when we're distressed. So if you can try to slow your breathing down, then you'll get the part of your brain back online that can help you weigh things up logically. So when we talk about slowing our breathing down, there's an example here of square breathing, where we take any square in the room, so this board, for instance, that you're watching this video on, and you breathe in for 4 seconds. And then you go across the top and breathe out for 4. And then in for 4. And then out for 4. Doing that 4 or 5 times will slow down your heart rate, will level the amount of oxygen that you're taking on, and will lower your temperature, just regulate your body, ready to be able to think a bit more clearly about the situation. The other one here is a grounding technique that helps you to tune into your senses and bring yourself back to the present moment. If you're worrying about the future or dwelling on the past, you're not truly here in the present moment. So notice 5 things that you can see. Don't have to put judgment on them, just notice them, be aware of 5 different things, maybe describe them in your mind, maybe look for 5 blue things if you're trying to sort of really regulate where you are to right here and now. Acknowledge 4 things that you can feel, so different textures, different things that might feel differently, temperatures, this is colder, this is warmer, this is softer, this is rougher. Acknowledge 3 things that you can hear, be that in the room, outside of the room, or even just in your body. You can listen to your breathing, and you can listen to a sound that you can make. Acknowledge 2 things that you can smell. Maybe you need to find something to smell. Maybe you can imagine your favorite smell. And lastly, acknowledge 1 thing you can taste. If that is a physical taste in terms of having something to eat, or just a cold drink of water to regulate your brain to here and now, or imagining something, or thinking of a sour sweet will make your mouth water, for instance. You can use your imagination, use your surroundings to really ground yourself into the present moment and take notice, maybe appreciate those things for what they are. Right here and right now is usually quite a safe place to be, rather than worrying about the future or dwelling on the past. Have a think about the strategies that we've went through today and choose 1 or 2 that you'd like to practice at home. Maybe make a note of any changes that you notice in your mood whilst practicing. Try to do it more than once. It won't work first time. Really give it a try and see if you can make it a bit more of a positive habit. Remember, habits can take a few weeks to really embed. So really try and practice as much as you can. And if you try to practice when you don't need it, you're more likely to be able to remember it and use it when you do need it. So really trying to get that to be a normal habit for your brain will make it easier to remember. Maybe keep a bit of a thought diary or a mood diary. Write it down and see if that helps to sort of reflect on the changes that you're making. All of these ideas and more are on our Compass Go Mental Health Support Team YouTube page, or you can access some links to helpful ideas on our Facebook page as well. If you want any further support, we also have an online CBT platform called SilverCloud, where you'll be able to access a coach to support you through the techniques. If you need further support than that, please do speak to a trusted adult or a teacher or a parent, or call us yourself and we can speak about how we can get extra support in place for you. Thank you for listening and take care.